Hey everyone, welcome back. Now, in last session we talked around how we are communicating between two systems, right? We have a Salesforce, we have a Jira, and then we want to access Jira related details of stories and everything. So where BAs can work, but as a Salesforce developer, if I am working in the Salesforce, it will be very handy for me to keep a track of my user story, my task. As and when I am working in the Salesforce, I can quickly do those updates, right? So now how this is working? So what are the steps? So first thing here is from Salesforce, we are communicating with which endpoint? That is a Jira. So Salesforce should know that a request is going from Salesforce to Jira. So that we do using remote site setting. So if you see here in the remote site setting, I have created one remote site setting. Okay. So you can also create this one where you just need to put the remote site URL. That is the endpoint URL. Okay. And I have just put it to active. Okay. If you see, this is the Jira URL that I have, right? This is the one. Okay, that is called our endpoint server, right, where we are sending our request, and this server will serve our request by sending the response in JSON format, right? So first thing is this. Now if imagine you are living your home is Salesforce, right, and other home is other person's home is this one, or Jira's home, right? This is Salesforce home, this is Jira home. Now Salesforce want to go to Jira and get this detail. So Jira says, I don't allow anyone that I am not aware of. Only authenticated users will get the access to the data, right? That's where I wanted to put these things right here. So this is your Salesforce, this is a Jira, right? Salesforce want to communicate with Jira, but Jira says I will only communicate with the one whom I know, right? I know in the terms that this is behind the credentials, right? Some authentication, some mechanism which will need help Jira to identify, okay, this is authorized person and I need to give him this data if he is requesting, right? So that's where within Salesforce we have something called name credential. The authentication which we are using is basic authentication, right? So if I go to name credential, so there are two name credential. Earlier it was a classic legacy that is called, and nowadays we are shifting to the this new one which is consisting of two parts, name credential and external credential. We'll go in details later, right? So name credential, here you will put the details. In external credential, you will put the authentication. Here you will put the server details. Okay. Then now once these things are set up, now you need to write the code. So how you have to write the code is like you have to use HTTP request, you have to use HTTP channel, right? And you have to use the HTTP response to collect the response. Remember the three things, right? HTTP request, response, and the channel. So in request, we need to send some details, right? So in request, we need to set the endpoint URL, right? So endpoint URL is nothing but the address of that particular thing which we want to access. So if you see here, call out Jira Connect, that we'll see in the next session. This will get the base URL which is with the authentication, right? You don't need to put username password here, which is risky. And then you are putting this details around what is the thing that you want to access, which API, which issue or details that you want to access, right? I have, for demo purpose, I have just hard coded, but it's not a best practice, right? We need to take it dynamically. Then you need to set the content type. Here I am setting that endpoint URL which I am defining here, right? And then I am sending the request over this channel called HTTP, right? If you see here, so request, the channel where which on which you are sending that request, and then you are getting a response. And now this response I am parsing, so we'll come to this, right, in our next sessions. But the essential thing to understand is it's all revolving around the three things, right? A request, response, and the channel over which we are communicating. We will go in detail in each section, right? How this name credential we need to configure, how we need to form this request, how we need to parse the response. Then there are many aspects to it, right? Writing a test class for code coverage in case of call out, because this is a call out, right? From Salesforce we are calling to some other system, and the first gateway is this remote site setting, right? Salesforce gatekeeper is remote site setting. Remote site setting, if that endpoint is not defined, Salesforce will throw an error, this is unauthorized, or this is not the endpoint that I'll allow you to do the call out, right? You can reproduce this error by inactivating this or deleting this entry and giving a call out. It will not work in that case. Okay, so this is fairly simple if you try to understand in the layman terms, or if you try to relate it to this one, right? One endpoint communicating with another endpoint which is behind secured access, then you need to get that access first and then you can send the request. Without access, if you send the request, you won't get the required response, right? It will give you some or the other error. And while going through all those concepts, I'll try to use the trailhead, because it will be very easy and all the documentation will be with you. For one of the example, I'll try to walk you through the trailhead details which you need to focus, and how you can you know uh, master yourself in the REST integration. Thank you. See you in the next session where we'll talk about the name credential.